In the last video we talked about strings, so I think now is probably the right time to actually finally talk a little bit about booleans. Now, basically, we don't worry if you don't understand anything in this episode, because we're going to be going through it a lot more later. This is just an introduction, but I just wanted to explain what a boolean is, what values can it have, and how can you use that in C. So, first of all, what is a boolean? Well, a boolean is basically it's true or false, so it can be either true or false. Now, if it's true, well then, it can be, if it's true, then that's typically represented as a 1 in C, whereas if it's false, it's typically represented as a 0. So don't worry about that too much. We'll see visual examples of that in a minute. So first of all, how do you actually declare a boolean? Well, so we've got chars, we've got ints, we've got longs. We haven't talked about longs. Have we talked about longs? I don't think we have talked about longs. Maybe we have a bit. But anyway, that's besides the point. I say besides the point a lot. I never really used to say that. But we've got double, and we've even got strings. But we learned they're not quite like this. So it would make sense to have, in fact, let's get rid of strings. It doesn't really fit the example. To have bool here. Now, although my computer seems to think it's correct, actually, it doesn't think it's correct, but it's not. Unfortunately, you can't use something like this. Bool A equals true. For some reason, C doesn't have a Boolean type, probably just to really confuse the developers. But don't worry, because there's an easy fix to this, and that's just by typing underscore and then B. And underscore capital B, A equals true. But we still don't have true. What kind of programming language doesn't have true? Well, we can just represent this as a 1, in C. So this is perfectly valid in C. Underscore bool equals, so there's a dog howling outside my window. Underscore bool A equals 1. Now, we could also represent this as false by using 0. But let's be honest. Why do we need to do this? This is a bit complicated, isn't it? Wouldn't it be just be nice to use bool B equals true, for example, or bool B equals false? Well, luckily there is a C library that lets us do that. But we need to actually import it first. So let's get rid of this, and maybe I'll change that to A. So the library is called standardbool.h or standardboolean.h. Bool just sounds wrong to me, I don't know why. But stdbool.h. Now, standard bool, this is standard input-output, so they're quite a similar naming convention, and once again, it's just a header. But as you can see, now this works. But what is this standard bool file actually doing? Oh. Well, basically, we could use the same sort. We could do the same sort of thing by doing something like this, which is hashtag. Now, don't worry if this doesn't make any sense to you. It probably doesn't, but I'll explain it as we go along. So, hashtag define bool underscore bool. So, what does that do? Well, it just basically, it says wherever you see this bool, wherever you type BOOL, just replace that with underscore capital B. OOL. So all that will do is replace where I've got here with saying bool with underscore bool. Now that, as you can see, if I hover over this, it says expands to underscore bool, which basically means that wherever I use wherever I use this, it will. I'll just say that. Wherever I use it with what bool, it will just say, oh, well, I think he just means underscore bool. He just means the same thing, but he's just writing this instead. So all that does is and as you can see, this part of our code is working now. It's not underlined with red, but this true still is. So we can use something very similar. So if I use #define true, then that's the same as this bool. But then what if I typed but you can't just do this as false as true, because true doesn't exist, does it? So, well, what will we do? Well, remember how I said earlier that 1 is equal to true? Well, we can just replace everywhere it says true with 1, so that works perfectly. But what if it's false now? We haven't done that yet. And it still doesn't know what to do because it doesn't think false exists. Well, we can just do the exact same thing with false and 0, because remember, false means 0. Now, I really don't want you to worry about this code because it doesn't matter. You don't need to define this yourself. I just wanted to give you a basic understanding of what actually true means and what false means, and a little bit about the boolean type as well. But you can just as well get rid of that code and include standard bool.h.